G'day, you're listening to the Virtual Staff Room, and this is episode 28, All This Scratchin'.
One, two, three.
And thanks for joining us. My name is Chris Betcher, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Virtual Staff Room. And today we are talking with two wonderful Australian educators from down south, down near Adelaide in South Australia, Peter Ruwoldt and Bill Kerr. And Peter and Bill have both had quite a bit of experience teaching a very friendly, very child-friendly programming language from Massachusetts Institute of Technology called Scratch. And I took this opportunity to have a chat with both Peter and Bill about what they're doing with their kids with Scratch. Both of these guys have a background as computing teachers, so they understand a lot about the methodologies behind teaching a programming language. And it's really interesting to hear about how they're taking those ideals and using them with kids in a really friendly environment, which is what Scratch is, and getting kids to start delving into the wonders of computer programming, sometimes from quite an early age. Peter in particular was involved in a thing called Scratch Day, which is a global sort of celebration of people using Scratch, and he tells us a little bit about how he organised Scratch Day at his school and what a great success it was. So with no further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode talking to Peter Ruwoldt and Bill Kerr about Scratch. Well, guys, welcome to the Virtual Staff Room. It's great to get you together in the virtual room here like this. And in one corner here we have Peter Ruwoldt. And Peter, just g'day.
Yeah, g'day. G'day from South Australia,
yes.
Sunny Beachport.
Yes, and Bill Kerr. Bill, welcome to you.
Yep, g'day from Adelaide.
So we have a couple of South Australians here who are doing some amazing things with a program called Scratch. And I caught Peter and Bill both sort of independently talking about it on one of the mailing lists I belong to, and thought this was too good an opportunity to pass up to hear what these guys are doing with Scratch. So, Peter, I'll start with you, just simply because you're sitting in the list here, and I just get you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and where Scratch fits in for you.
Yeah, okay. I'm a senior secondary IT teacher, and also an ICT coordinator in my school. It's a high school, Grant High School in Mount Gambier. I also sit on the Information Economy Advisory Board for South Australia. Now that's a board that advises the Minister for Science and the Information Economy. And the last year and a half, we've been exploring ICT skills, and it's been made really obvious that there's a lack of people who are choosing to do the hard stuff like computer science and engineering.
Yeah, I think that's the same all over. Yep.
It is. I mean, I was thinking that, originally it might be just something that's peculiar to us, but, it's something that's across the Western world. And when they're talking about the hard stuff, they're talking about higher order thinking. And I'm also a person that is a big follower of free open source software because, it has a bit of an attitude around lifting the bonnet, taking it apart, exploring it, breaking it up into bits, putting it back together, that sort of hacking or tinkering sort of an approach.
Yep.
And it appears to me that you can get caught up sometimes with, proprietary, this is this industry standard. And I often think that we lose track of our primary function in schools, which is all around really helping kids learn how to dig deeply into things and to, and to investigate and, tinker. And so when...
Sounds like you ruined a few perfectly good clocks when you were younger, pulling them apart and seeing how they worked.
Oh, that's me, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so it's Yvonne Murtagh. Now, she's in learning technologies in DEX in Adelaide, and a number of years ago she had a blog post that just simply said, here's Scratch sort of thing, and it piqued my curiosity and went and had a look, and to my mind, it's a really excellent tool for helping kids tinker and investigate, and in particular the higher order thinking skills. The logic. It's a great tool for that because it allows students to build programs and such, but it's taken away the possibility of making syntax errors.
Yep.
And so the only sort of error you can make is a logic error.
Yep.
And so it's just fits so neatly with that whole business of programming and teaching kids to program and that higher order thinking skills.
Yep, that's how it strikes me.
Yep.
Well, we'll just hear from Bill, and we'll come back and we'll start digging into Scratch a little more. So, Bill, tell us about what you do.
Yeah, I think Peter gave a pretty good introduction to Scratch. I'm a high school teacher, Woodville High School, South Australia. My background is I've got a background in logo programming that goes back.
I love Logo. Logo's so much fun.
15, 20 years, I suppose.
Yep.
Which started when I read Seymour Papet's book, Mindstorms, about 20 years ago.
Yep.
And then I decided, I was a maths science teacher, I decided to move into computing teaching based on that. And I used Logo Writer quite a lot in my previous school. When I got to the school, they knew I was interested in computing, so they just gave me a room full of old, broken-down XT computers that nobody else wanted to use because they're in such a bad state. And some of them only had floppy drives, and I just put Logo Writer on.
Yeah, which would have been perfect for what you wanted them for.
Yeah, exactly. And I had that. I had one Year 8 class for maths and science, and I took them through to Year 9. And I was just using Logo Writer, and they progressively improved their skills. And by the end of the second year, they were doing quite sophisticated project stuff using Logo Writer. And really, thinking back, it was one of the best experiences I've had using computers in the classroom. Totally different from taking kids into a computer lab.
Yeah, it's a much more constructivist approach, isn't it?
Constructivist is the word from Seymour. So that's my background, and I have tried other programs along the way. Like when I got to Woodville, I was a little bit unhappy with MicroWarts when it first came out because it was a bit buggy and some other things like that. So I had to go at Game Maker, which at that time was a free program.
Yep.
And because that just had a slicker interface, and the final product was a real game that looked like a real game and so that was fairly motivating from kids' point of view.
Yep.
I tried that for a few years, but I've had similar sentiments to Peter about the importance of free and open source software. And Game Maker eventually went down a proprietary road. I think there is still a free version around, but it just that Mark Overmars, the guy that wrote it, he made a connection with a company and was clearly going down a more proprietary pathway. So I decided I'd look around for what other alternatives, and I think I picked up on Scratch partly from Peter's initial post about it, had a look at Scratch and thought, yeah, that was an improvement in terms of its interface, the visual drag and drop.
Yeah. Well, as Peter said, like you're getting kids to focus on the logic rather than the syntax, which is always what throws people when they first start dabbling with languages like this. I think is, they've left a comma out or forgotten a semicolon or something, and things don't work, and it can get frustrating. But once you take the syntax problem away and get them to focus on the logic, then I don't know. I imagine it opens up a whole lot of doorways for people who maybe aren't program minded to start with.
Yep, and I think that's. I think that first experience that kids have and teachers have with the program, like that first lesson in the classroom, is very important.
Yeah.
That it's a smooth introduction, that everything's working properly, like the computers are working properly, the software is working properly and that the kids can achieve something in that first lesson, it actually can make a big difference to what software teachers end up choosing and not choosing. Scratch is pretty good from that point of view.
Now, I guess before we get too much more carried away talking about that side of things, there's probably people listening to this who are going, well, what on earth is Scratch? So does any of you want to volunteer a simple explanation for someone who's maybe never seen it?
You go, Peter.
Sure. I'm not. Can you still hear me? Because my screen's just gone blank, and
I can hear you fine.
All right, good. Scratch. Now, it's a multimedia programming language. It's built by Lifelong Kindergarten, which is in MIT. Basically, the interface has a part where you can see your results, so you can move sprites around and whatever. The part in the middle is where you build your code, and then there's a left-hand side of it which has all the blocks of code. Now, the blocks of code you can drag and drop into place. And because the blocks of code already are there and they're in these blocks and they fit together, you're not in a position where you're typing anything. And the other thing is that when your program's running, you can change parameters within the program and then see what happens. You don't have to stop the program, change the parameters, and then restart the program. You can do it on the fly, which is, fairly unique and interesting.
It is, yeah.
So,
late binding.
What was that, Bill?
That's called late binding, and it originates from Scratch is written in Squeak, which is Smalltalk, and it's the only program I think available which you can alter parameters while it's running. And to me, that's really important because it means, like taking a mathematical perspective, it means you can alter a variable while it's running, and that must mean that kids will, and that's a pretty crucial concept. It must mean that kids will pick up the concept of the variable much more readily.
Yeah, true.
It can be altered while it's running.
Hadn't thought of that, but yeah. I'd noticed you could do it, but it hadn't struck me as how important that actually is.
Yeah.
Sorry, I butted in there.
No, go for it.
Yeah. It was a good butting though, Bill. Okay, so you can build the code, and you see then it's the product that you make can then be played and so forth, so the kids can share what they've done. And this is quite typical of what I've seen in the class. They create something and they play it together and all that sort of stuff, and it's often you'll hear one of them say, "Oh, that gives me an idea," and they then the group breaks up and they get back and they make some modifications, and then the signal goes out. I've done it, and they all gather around again, and they all take their have their keys or whatever the case may be, and they play again. And it's an ongoing cycle where they get sort of an idea, they create something, and then they share it. And then that gives them another idea, and they get into the creation process again, and then they share it, and so on and so forth. In addition to that, the Scratch site is a place where it's a bit like a social networking site, but you can upload your projects, and kids can upload projects. And so then you can have a look at what other people have done. You can play, because it's a Java applet, and so forth, it just works in a web page. And so you can have a look at what other people have done, and if you like or are interested or intrigued or whatever, you can download their project and put it into Scratch and see how they've done it.
Yeah.
Which also helps fertilise, create or give people ideas, inspire them.
Yeah, as you say, it's a great chance to look under the hood and actually figure out how stuff works.
Yeah, it is, and it's really in tune with the creation process, because we don't create things in isolation. We get ideas from all around the place, and the idea of being able to go to the site, have a look at what other people have done, get ideas from them, and build on those ideas is very natural. It's we're not we never really have to create anything totally from scratch and totally in isolation. So,
Pardon the pun.
it's really facilitates that creative process.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Go, Bill.
I just loaded the Scratch site while Peter was talking. The URL is scratch.mit.edu, and there's currently 476,000 projects up there. And as the site says, that's a lot of scratching.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so simple. I mean, when I made my very first project, I just thought, that's actually pretty good. And I just hit the little button and boom, next thing I know, it's up on the Scratch site for everyone to look at.
Yep.
They've really made it a nice, seamless process.
Yeah, it's a nice, seamless process, except for when you're behind a firewall.
I have noticed that. Yeah. Is there a solution to that?
Yeah. Well, I did hear at one stage that they were looking at putting some sort of uploader on the Scratch site, but I haven't seen anything of that. And when I've had the opportunity to give some feedback, I've made the point that the uploader within Scratch is a bit of a problem behind our firewalls, so we'll see what happens.
I'd noticed that I had trouble uploading from school, and I just figured it was just our firewall, but obviously it's more common than that.
You can't unblock that, Peter.
Oh, look, I've had a bit of a... Yeah, I really don't know what to unblock.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's not much to go from. So, I'm curious, how have you used it? Now, you guys have a computing background, and you've been using it with boys and girls, I'm presuming?
Yep.
I'm curious to know just on that, have you noticed, and I don't mean this to be a sexist comment, but I have taught boys and I have taught girls, and I've noticed there are some pretty obvious differences between teaching the two, especially when it comes to sort of, the geekier end of using technology. Have you noticed the difference between the way boys and girls react to something like Scratch?
Yeah, I'll go on that if you like. There's one of the reasons I moved away from Game Maker was I felt that Game Maker appealed much more to boys than to girls.
Right.
And so game making was a bit limited from that point of view. And I think the same thing probably applies to all aspects or many aspects. No, that's probably not right. I think girls use computers more for like Facebook and chat.
Yeah, and more social stuff.
But if you do something with programming, you're going to get boys more into that.
Yeah.
And but because I'm in a high school, I have used Scratch with Year 8 classes, but at the moment I'm mainly teaching Year 10 and Year 11. And what I find is, and the computing is an elective, and I just get a lot more boys than girls in the classes.
Right, yeah.
It does get more boys choosing computing.
Yeah,
yeah. I've got one class at the moment, I've only got one girl in there with about 20 boys, for example.
Right.
Even though that's a bit extraordinary, one-sided, but it's normally more boys than girls.
Yeah, well, I mean, before people send me a whole lot of nasty emails telling me I'm being sexist, I just thought I'd ask the question, because I remember coming from a boys' school where we did a lot of stuff with Lego and Lego logo type stuff, and just these boys were just totally into it, and then I switched to a girls' school and did the same kind of stuff with them, and they'd kind of sit there and look at it, and go, what do I do next? You don't seem to have to explain that to the boys as much as the girls. I'm being very broad brush strokes, making that statement.
I did have an experience recently, because in my year 11 class we're doing web design, and I just asked the class if they'd heard of HTML before, and it was only girls with Facebook accounts that had heard of it before,
right,
and knew how to tweak it.
Yep. That's interesting.
And that arose from them tweaking their Facebook accounts.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, as far as I'm aware, tweaking HTML raw code is pretty much the only way to deal with something like MySpace, isn't it?
Well, I don't have a MySpace account.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but I seem to recall you had to get right down to code level to make changes there.
Yeah, well, obviously the kids are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Peter, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, just about the gender issue. Again, that's something that's causing concern within the industry, is the gender imbalance within the IT sector. And so Scratch appealed to me because it was something that was more likely to appeal to both genders. And certainly my experience is that the Year 9 girls and boys cope fairly well with it.
Yep.
and enjoy it. I use as one of my benchmarks what the kids take home to tinker with at home. My Year 9 IT course is based solely around tools that they can take home and play with.
Yep.
And there's no homework kind of set. So the measure of success is what do the kids take home and continue with at home. And there's evidence of both boys and girls, but not all boys and not all girls. It's just, there are some kids that, will take to programming, and there are other kids that might take to building a web page more. It's different strokes, but that's what I expect. So there were girls that took it home, Scratch. There were boys that took Scratch home. And I was pleased with that from a gender balance perspective.
Yeah. Look, it's a broad statement to make. I'm not suggesting that girls can't program. In fact, as we all know, the first computer programmer was a woman, and many other famous computer programmers have been of the female gender. But yeah, it does unfortunately seem to be becoming more and more of a male-dominated field.
There's actually a paper on the Scratch site which is talking about gender inclusivity, and the people behind Scratch are certainly conscious of trying to design a product that is gender inclusive.
Yeah, and it seems to be. Yeah, no, it's good. It's got a nice interface on it. It's not intimidating, and it's actually friendly and inviting. You actually feel like, well, I felt like that once I'd thrown a few lines up there that I understood the mode of working with Scratch, that suddenly all the doorways opened, and I went, oh, what if I had this? What if I had that? And I found it very inviting to try and try the next thing.
Yes, and it does teach your programming basics. It allows you to play with sequence, selection and iteration, so you're dealing with the three programming constructs.
Yep.
You can play with variables, and you can play with modules in a sense by using the broadcast command. So probably really the only critical thing that it doesn't seem to deal with, it might be arrays. So it's a brilliant tool for introducing people. And I can see even tertiary sector people that have no experience with programming to be introduced to programming using something like Scratch.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I'm planning on... Well, actually, let me throw a different question at you. Both of you, feel free. At what year level do you think is... how old do you think kids need to be before you can sort of trot this out as an option?
I imagine you could do it at year 3, 4.
Yeah?
In fact, I've seen projects on the web. One of the best bunch of projects I've seen, which I actually use for older kids, is been developed for, I think it's either year 3, 4, 5. Might be 4, 5 kids. Quite a bunch of sophisticated projects that obviously have been done in that particular school.
Yeah. I was thinking sort of year 4, 5 would be a good age to start them on stuff. You don't think that's too young?
No. No, I'm sure they'd manage it.
Yeah. Peter, you have any experience with the younger kids doing this?
My experience goes back to year 6 and 7. We took part in the International Scratch Day this year.
Yes, I want to ask you about that.
And we used mainly my year 9s, but then I had a few year 10s from last year and even a year 12. We used those kids as mentors and then invited a whole lot of regional primary schools to send a team of 3 Year 6, 7 students.
Oh, I like that idea.
Mm,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, well, there were the primary school people typically, now this is stereotypical a little bit, so don't shoot me.
That's all right. We've been dealing in the stereotype so far.
Yeah, primary school teachers and schools, by and large, struggle with the technology area of learning,
Yep.
and programming or cutting up a piece of wood, all that sort of stuff. And so, if you run a training and development thing for teachers, then the teachers go back to the school and they are left with being the sole problem solver sort of thing. And it's hard for them because by and large primary school teachers don't have that technology background. So by inviting Year 6, 7 students, and we particularly targeted Year 6, 7 students in need of extension. So the idea would be that in a day, they would pick up lots and feel confident by the end of the day to be able to take what they learnt back to their school and teach the other kids.
Yep.
Now, see, the other thing that primary schools struggle with often is access to computers.
Yep.
Getting access to the lab, it's very, very restrictive. And they might have access to a couple of computers more freely. And so, again, by having a small group of 6, 7 students who get trained up allows for, that kind of, what would you call it, tutorial type or tutoring type situation where you have...
I like that mentoring model you're using where you the younger kids help the older kids. Sorry, other way around.
That's it. And so that opens the door for, you don't have to take your entire class to a computer lab. A teacher can say, all right, we're all going to do the Scratch thing. We've got a couple of mentors that, support the kids through that while the other kids are doing, other activities. So, where they have particularly, the number of computers in the school is makes all that sort of stuff a challenge. It provides options for those primary school people. Anyway, the Year 6, 7 students lapped it up. They just absolutely loved the day.
Yep.
And loved what they've learned and were really excited about, going back to their school and felt absolutely confident of being able to help the other kids.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great initiative. Is Scratch Day is that a global thing? Do people do that all over the world?
Yeah, it's the first year this year.
Oh, okay.
And it was on the Scratch team. There's a woman called Karen Brennan who is doing her doctorate and she's particularly looking at the face-to-face sort of interactions around using Scratch and so forth. Now, I believe that she is the person behind the Scratch site, so encouraging that interaction. She's the one that's put definitely the one behind Scratch Day. It's being able to say, look, this is an international event.
Yeah. Is there a specified format for Scratch Day, or is it just any schools can just do anything at all to promote Scratch within their local community?
It doesn't even have to be schools.
Oh, okay. Right.
If you have a look at the activities for Scratch Day, there were people, community people. There were things that were running out of libraries. There was, things, professional development things for teachers. There was all sorts of things.
Oh, good.
The model that we chose was based upon, thinking about the issues for primary school teachers and primary schools and recognising that we're all learners and trying to extend the kids that needed to be extended and letting people know that the IT industry is more than just programming. There are people skills, so that tutoring and mentoring stuff was really important.
Right, yeah, good.
Yeah, so it's kind of trying to bring all of those facets and reflect those in the day.
Yeah. Bill, did your school do anything for Scratch Day?
No, we didn't. I sort of I think Peter's sort of style of focus is a bit different to mine in that regard. Like I've never been one into those sort of doing things on particular days. It just hasn't been my style.
Right. I tell you what.
I did want to mention one thing in relation to what Peter was saying. There's an American education organisation called Generation Yes, which focuses all its in service around that model of training up kids to teach teachers, and they go into schools and the school makes a commitment that they'll accept that model, which is probably the initial blocking point of whether teachers would put themselves in that position. But that's the whole model which they operate, is they train up teachers to teach the teachers, they train up students to teach the teachers the IT skills. And it's, I've met Sylvia Martinez, who's part of that group, Generation Yes.
Oh, cool.
And she's going, I just heard the other day, she's going to be one of the keynote speakers at the AECCE in Melbourne next year.
Oh, good, excellent. Yeah, she's.
I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, Sylvia's great.
Oh, you know Sylvia? Yeah.
Not personally, but I've certainly seen some of the stuff she does. Yeah. Excellent. Are you're involved in the AECCE thing next year? Are you?
Haven't decided yet. Perhaps Sylvia Martinez and Gary Stager are coming out, and nice. I know Gary from 20 years ago because he was involved in the first laptop school in Australia in about 1990.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, well, Gary's right into this Scratch stuff, isn't he? He runs that whole what's it called? The Constructivist Consortium. Yeah,
well, Gary's into Logo, probably more microworlds than Scratch. Because Scratch, he would, I'm sure he'd support it as starting, but microworlds is more powerful. Like Scratch doesn't have the high ceiling.
Right.
It has some missing functionality, but it's best one for starting kids off on, I believe. But microworlds is more open-ended.
Right. Yeah, look, I had our maths coordinator come give me a piece of paper the other day, put it on my desk, and it was an invitation for kids to do the Australian Informatics competition. And I looked at it and I thought, I'd love to do this, but we just really aren't doing anything to prepare kids at the moment for, that programming kind of mindset. And I think we've fallen into the same trap that you guys described before, where we've kind of lost sight of the fact that for some kids, programming is one of the things that they really enjoy. And we've taken computing off into a whole bunch of areas that, are great for the masses, but not necessarily great for the specialists.
I'd say, I'll just say something here is, I think commercialisation has been a problem here because when computers first came out, they always had a few programming languages on them by default.
Yeah, that's right. But Vista doesn't come with QBasic, does it?
No. Well, computers come out and they don't have programming languages on by default. And also, I recently saw an interesting thing. There's a iPod advertisement out called "There's an app for that."
Right. Yeah.
And it's sort of building the mentality that whenever you want to do something, you just go and visit the Apple Store and get an app for it.
That's right, and hope that somebody else knows how to write computer code.
And I've actually had a student recently who was a real Mac fan, and she had very much that mentality of she sort of turned her nose up at Scratch and said, it's not going to put that on my Macintosh.
Really? Wow. And yet I've heard stories of, kids at school, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds, who write an app and submit it to the App Store and actually make a good chunk of money from selling their app on the App Store in iTunes.
Oh, that's a good way to go. Yeah.
So we need to have a chat with that girl. So, Peter, how did Scratch Day work out for you? I read your reviews, and I think I saw a couple of things online where you were sort of doing the wrap-up of it, and it sounded really successful.
Oh, look, I can't it was brilliant. It was things just fell into place, and the kids went home raving about it. Both my kids and the kids from the visiting schools, and the teachers that came with the Year 6-7 students were wrapped with it. I didn't have to work too hard to get some support, like from UniSA. They really jumped at the opportunity to, but also, kind of mentoring them, letting them know at Year 6 and 7 that, okay, if this is something that you like doing, there's a pathway here, there's a future, there's a career.
Yeah.
So, UniSA, the IT section of TAFE SA, and there's Google were just came on board, and having the industry people there as well, just kind of created this environment that let the kids know not only is this thinking fun and can stretch you out, and it can lead to some sort of career in a good area. One of the things that Tim Ansell's a Google engineer that webcammed into the event, and he's originally from Adelaide, and he's talked to Bill face to face, as I understand it. Anyway, one of the points that Tim made when he was talking to the kids in answer to a question, what programming languages do you use in Google? Tim said, well, we use this and that. But he said, look, what you're learning with Scratch is the thinking, and Google don't employ people based upon whether they can program in this or language or that language.
Yeah, exactly.
They want people who have the thinking skills so that they can pick up whatever language and make it happen.
Well, I dare say Google's not the only ones who are looking for that in kids. It's it's all about problem solving and
it's all,
logic.
Look, you've hit the nail on the head. You've hit the nail on the head. It's all about logic and problem solving and being able to develop skills and then apply them in some sort of practical way. And Scratch just enables us to do that. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yep. That's good. Well, I'm looking forward to getting into. I think I'm going to try it with Year 5 in Term 3.
Yep.
I think I'm going to dedicate the time that I spend with those kids to learning Scratch. I think I'll have a lot of fun, and so will they.
We'll start them off with the Scratch cards. So have a few sets of the Scratch cards.
Well, I was going to say, that was my next question, actually. As a seasoned professionals, as you both are, with teaching this stuff, and me thinking it's really cool, but never having actually taught it, what advice can you give me on the best way to approach this?
Start them out with the Scratch cards. You can allow an hour, maybe 2, to work their way through the 11 or 12 or 13, whatever there are.
Now, I haven't found those. Are they on the Scratch website?
They are. If you go to the support section, there's an educators section, and there's just lots and lots of downloads.
Oh, nice.
Okay, now there's also a video there that goes for about 5 minutes and gives an overview of what Scratch does and how it works. So it's in a bit of a fun, light sort of video that shows them, how it works. So the Scratch cards, this little video, and then the next step is you'll find some kids will get inspired and they can be creative from that point. Mm-hmm. But you'll also find kids that, I don't know what to make. Now, Bill has made a whole lot of Scratch challenges. There's about 11, 12, 13 of them, is there, Bill?
11 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can get them from his website. So there are a number of challenges that you can give kids to do. And Bill also pointed me to it's Nebo, N-E-B-O. Bill might be able to fill me in on that, but they've created a number of challenges. So for the kids that don't feel that they can kind of have an idea and be creative, at least there's some challenges to throw at kids and to get them going.
Right.
And I find that
once I'm just looking at them now. So there's all these downloadable projects, and you just basically they're little problems that the kids have to use Scratch to solve. I'm presuming. I can't quite.
Yeah.
They're a bit small to see, but they look great.
Yeah, really nice way to start. And also the Peter ran a workshop at the KEGS Computer Education Group of South Australian Conference last week, and he used the videos to good effect. He had about 25 people in the room, and he was talking from Mount Gambier using the Centra system. And I asked the group there how many had seen Scratch before, and only about how many hadn't seen it. And 80% of the audience didn't know anything about Scratch.
Yep.
And they really didn't know what was going on until Peter showed the first video. And after that, everyone got very interested because the video just explained it so clearly and just showed a whole lot of possible things you could do with Scratch and showed the interface. So the video was a very effective introduction to Scratch.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm just looking at the videos now. That's a great idea. I hadn't noticed that there was all this stuff here for teachers to support them. So that's really good news. So for anyone listening to this, Scratch website, scratch.mit.edu, click on the support button and you'll find tons of stuff in there to help you teach it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's great, guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out, and especially, well, both of you, but I know, Peter, you're on holidays and you've had to leave the caravan and find a quiet room somewhere, I believe.
Yeah. We found a nice coffee shop right on the beachfront. And so overlooking the ocean and drinking a nice mugachino. Geez, it's hard.
Anywhere, anytime learning. Well done. Well, I think that's great. I might just I'll put some show notes together when I publish this shortly, and I'll make sure we have links up to all the stuff there, and I'll get you guys to maybe forward me through an email with your websites and blogs and whatnot, and I'll make sure I include those in the links. But thank you so much for joining us.
And you've done a great job.
Well, no, you guys have done a great job. So it's an awesome tool, and it's great to talk with some people who have actually been doing some really interesting stuff with it and using it well. And I think, what we said right in the beginning, it annoys me when I see schools who don't cater for the kids who are interested in programming. And don't offer that sort of stuff to them, because I think there's some kids who are gifted in that kind of thing in the same way that other kids are gifted in sport or music or dancing or anything else. And for schools not to cater for kids with those interests, I think is a real shame.
When you publish the podcast, can you send us the URL and we can pass it on to our blogs and whatever?
Yep, absolutely.
So
no worries.
No
worries. It will be at www.virtualstaffroom.net. But thanks, guys, for joining me. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Bill.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
So there you go. I'm not sure how many of you have tried to teach programming to younger kids. Certainly with the easier languages like BASIC or Logo Writer, that type of thing. I've always found kids pick it up really quickly. And the problem has always been, as we alluded to in the podcast there, that this notion of syntax, getting the exact structure of the language correct, knowing where to put the commas and the full stops and the bracket marks and all the rest of it. And as we said, Scratch takes all of that away and just gets kids purely thinking about the logic involved in the programmings. And once they get hooked on that, then of course there's plenty of room for growth then into other languages, and I imagine things like Python and whatnot would be the easiest ones to go into. And there is certainly, in my experience, a whole bunch of kids in our schools who really relate to this stuff, and it's a shame to not offer them something. So Scratch, I'm excited about. I can't wait to use it with the Year 5s next term. I think we're going to do some really interesting things. So I just want to thank Peter and Bill for coming on today and having a chat about it. Really appreciate it. Peter was actually on holidays and talking to me from a coffee shop, and that's always great to see that sort of commitment to put things aside and come onto the podcast and do stuff like that. But to him and Bill, thanks so much. Anyway, until next time, I will chat to you then. You've been listening to the Virtual Staff Room. My name's Chris Betcher. See you soon. Oh, I also wanted to just add that the music I used in this episode with the funky scratching and whatnot is from the Creative Commons website. In fact, it's from CC Mixter, and it's called Remember the Name. This is Hip Hop Remix by a guy called Jay Sinky, and it's licensed under a Creative Commons attribution only license. So thank you, Jay, for the permission to use this up front using Creative Commons. Very cool. See you guys later. Bye.